town of Ravenwood had always been a place of quaint charm and whispered secrets. Nestled between shadowy forests and rolling hills, it was a town that seemed untouched by time. But beneath its serene surface, an undercurrent of unease had begun to spread. It started with the arrival of the enigmatic puppeteer, known only as Marius. Marius set up his marionette shows in the heart of the town square, drawing crowds with his eerily lifelike puppets. Each performance was a mesmerizing display of artistry, yet there was something unsettling about the way the marionettes moved, as if they had minds of their own. The townsfolk whispered, but their curiosity outweighed their fears. Detective Eliza Hart, a newcomer to Ravenwood with a past shrouded in mystery, found herself drawn to the puppeteer's shows. She watched from a distance, her sharp eyes studying every subtle movement. Eliza had come to Ravenwood seeking solace from her own demons, but the puppeteer's displays stirred something deep within her. Then the murders began. Each crime scene was a gruesome tableau that mirrored the narratives of Marius's puppet shows. The victims were positioned like marionettes, strings attached to their limbs in a grotesque parody of life. The town was gripped by fear, and whispers of the puppeteer's involvement grew louder. Eliza, with her keen detective instincts, couldn't ignore the coincidences. As she delved deeper into the investigation, she found herself entangled in a web of secrets that led back to Marius. But the closer she got to the truth, the more she realized that the puppeteer's legacy was more complex and darker than she could have imagined. As Ravenwood's panic escalated, Eliza's investigation became increasingly personal. Night after night, she found herself at Marius's performances, not as a spectator, but as a hunter seeking clues. She noticed the subtle changes in his shows. The stories told by the marionettes grew darker, almost prophetic. Eliza's troubled past, a tapestry of unresolved cases and haunting memories, seemed to intertwine with the puppeteer's macabre performances. She began to feel as though the shows were a message, a challenge directed at her. The puppets' eyes seemed to follow her, their wooden smiles mocking her efforts to unravel the mystery. Meanwhile, Marius remained an enigma. He was seldom seen outside his performances, and nobody knew where he came from or why he had chosen Ravenwood. His presence in the town square, with his marionettes dancing under the moonlight, became a chillingly familiar sight. The next murder was even more brutal, a ghastly mimicry of a puppet show depicting a medieval trial. The victim was found in the old courthouse, positioned as a judge, with a look of terror forever etched on his face. The town's fear turned into hysteria, with fingers pointed at Marius. Eliza, fighting her own growing dread, decided to confront Marius directly. She waited for him after his performance, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. As he packed away his marionettes, their eyes seemed to flicker with a sinister intelligence. It was time to face the Puppetmaster. The confrontation between Eliza and Marius was charged with tension. Under the dim light of the backstage area, Eliza faced the puppeteer, her voice steady, but her hands betraying a slight tremor. "I know there's more to your shows than just entertainment," she accused. Marius, with an unsettling calmness, continued to pack away his marionettes. "Detective, isn't it?" he said without looking at her. "You see, these puppets are more than mere wooden figures. They hold stories, emotions, secrets, much like people." His words were enigmatic, laced with an underlying threat. Eliza pushed further, demanding answers about the murders. Marius turned to her, his eyes glinting in the low light. "Perhaps they're not just stories," he suggested cryptically. "Perhaps they're premonitions or even commands." The implication of his words sent a chill down Eliza's spine. That night, Eliza lay awake, pondering Marius's words. The lines between reality and the macabre shows were blurring. She began to wonder if the puppeteer was indeed controlling events, or if he was merely a harbinger of the darkness that had engulfed Ravenwood. The following day, a new murder shook the town. This time the victim was found suspended from the rafters of an abandoned theater, like a marionette on display. The crime scene was eerily similar to the finale of Marius's latest show. It was clear the Puppetmaster was issuing a challenge. The town of Ravenwood was now a cauldron of fear and suspicion. Marius's shows continued, each one more macabre than the last. Eliza attended every performance, her eyes never leaving the puppeteer. She was convinced he was the key to solving the murders. During one show, Eliza noticed a peculiar pattern. The marionettes seemed to be enacting scenes from Marius's own life, tales of loss, betrayal, and vengeance. It was as if he was sharing his story, albeit in a cryptic and twisted manner, through the strings of his puppets. Eliza's investigation led her to an old librarian who revealed a chilling tale. Years ago, a puppeteer had been accused of witchcraft in Ravenwood and was executed. His name had been Marius. The librarian suggested that the current Marius might be seeking revenge for his namesake. That night, Eliza dug deeper into the town's archives. She discovered that the original Marius had been wrongfully accused, his name tarnished by false testimonies. The realization hit her. The current Marius was reenacting the injustice through his shows, the murders symbolizing the accuser's fates. Determined to end the cycle of vengeance, Eliza planned to confront Marius with her findings. She hoped that by acknowledging his pain and the town's dark past, she could persuade him to stop the killings. But as she prepared for their final encounter, she couldn't shake off the feeling of dread. Eliza approached Marius for their final encounter with a mix of resolve and trepidation. The puppeteer was waiting for her, his marionettes silently arrayed around him like a jury. "I know about the original Marius," Eliza began, "and your quest for retribution." Marius's expression was unreadable. "Retribution," he echoed softly. "No, detective, it's not about revenge, it's about revealing the truth." He gestured to the puppets. "They are the medium for my story, the story of injustice and the consequences of unfounded fear." Eliza implored Marius to stop the killings, appealing to his sense of humanity. For a moment there was silence. Then Marius nodded slowly. "Perhaps the story has reached its end," he conceded. "But know this, the past never truly dies. It lives on in memories, in consequences, in truths untold." The murders in Ravenwood ceased, but the shadow of the events lingered. Eliza remained in the town, her connection to the case and to Marius a complex tapestry of empathy and unresolved questions. The puppeteer disappeared, leaving behind his marionettes and a legacy of enigmatic truths. As years passed, the tale of the Puppetmaster's legacy became a part of Ravenwood's history, a story whispered in the streets and remembered in the quiet of the night. Eliza often found herself gazing at the abandoned stage, pondering the thin line between puppet and master, between truth and myth.